Real quick before the video starts, a brief message from Satama to say, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Hello everyone, Crypto Anime, and with the new movie coming out this year, I thought it would be a good time to bring up the awesome series Goblin Slayer. So, for this one, I have quite a bit more knowledge or information regarding the series because I've actually read the first 30 chapters of the manga and watched the first episode in comparison to Demon Slayer, where I've only read the first 7 chapters and haven't watched any of the manga. So I definitely know a lot more about this series than I did about Demon Slayer. So with Goblin Slayer, there's quite a bit to unpack, so let's just hop right into it. Okay, starting off with the first volume and episode, there's a sure sense of shock and awe with the whole scene that happens into the cave where you're introduced to the priestess girl and this like ragtag group of adventurers that want to go kill some goblins to try and move up in tiers with their ranking, and I could see where it would turn some people off, but once you get past that, I mean, it's basically like, it's messed up, yeah, but it's introducing the cruel world that is Goblin Slayer. Like, normally when you would think of goblins, you would think of, like, these creatures that you don't really need to give any thought to because you could just punt them across the field and they would never hurt you. But in Goblin Slayer, it introduces you to a world where goblins are actually to be feared, whereas normally they wouldn't be given a second thought. They're creatures, and they act like creatures. Their main goal is to reproduce and spread across all lands, like devouring and conquering everything in their path. So, in this cruel, ravenous world where goblins are basically taking over in a sense, there has to be someone to almost keep them managed and maintained. Most people don't go for these quests as they don't really pay a lot out of the guild hall, so they're kind of like overlooked. But there is one man who goes in day after day and looks for quests to kill goblins. So to delve into the story, but not too much because I don't want to spoil a whole lot, at this point there's a priestess girl who's been introduced. She was sent from the church, like she passed, and she wants to be an adventurer, so she's trying to improve her spells and everything, and she ends up getting saved by the Goblin Slayer. And they team up, and it's like, you would never expect it, because she's like pretty much traumatized now, and he's just here, to kill some goblins. That's all he's really thinking about. And like at this point, there have been several groups that get completely destroyed by these so-called inferior goblins that are just children. But they're not children. I mean, they look like children, kind of, yeah, but they're not children. And there's Goblin Slayer coming in to like clean up the mess and completely wipe out these camps like it's nothing, because he realizes they're a threat. Everybody else is like, nah, they're just goblins. He's like, bruh, come on, they're goblins. They need to be exterminated. So, like, moving forward quite a bit, he meets up with this group where they kind of are looking for a member to help them clear this ruin out. And there's a actual threat for the first time, and it's, like, shocking because up to this point, it looks like Goblin Slayer is just undefeatable against any kind of goblin horde or hobgoblin or shaman or anything like that. Like, he knows every possible way to kill a goblin, which is pretty awesome. Like, the way he's very strategic and like methodical about how he wants to take down these goblins, and he's got like a one-track mind. Like, they just need to all die. But like on a brighter note, you get to see Goblin Slayer as more of this like humbled kind of character where he's helping out, like take care of a farm, and he wants to help this farm girl. I mean, I don't remember her name. I think it's just honestly Farm Girl. And like more to the light side of the story and show, there's some comedic value to it, and I really do like the little comedy bits that they throw in there because it makes this like terrible world seem a lot less terrible, because like they're all just laughing and having a good time. They're all being like the party that he ends up linking up with, where he kind of learns like maybe it's not so bad to work with a group of people, and maybe I don't have to work alone, and almost get like completely wrecked by actual threats, because there are some pretty powerful enemies in this world, not only like besides goblins, but the goblins themselves. I don't 100% remember if it goes into like a lot of the other like monsters in the world, but definitely goes into all these goblin like demon lords, and there's a demon lord that somebody defeats, and there's a goblin general, and there's these hobgoblins. Hobgoblins don't really seem to be that big of a deal, but there's goblin champions as well, and the goblin champions are pretty powerful. I mean, it's like a 1v1 Goblin Slayer. It's actually a pretty interesting fight. And to touch on the fighting, the combat In the manga, it's kind of hard to say, but I like it a lot. Even in the manga, I thought it was pretty well done. Like, I'm sure in the show itself, it's choreographed pretty fantastic. I can't really say, like, from the first episode, what I do remember, it looked very good, and the animation itself also looked very good, in my opinion. And a lot of the music they added in there really, like, tied it together and made me, like, want to watch the rest of the show, which I'm definitely going to do, especially with the movie coming out. And to, like, touch on the party that he links up with, it's got like a one of each, in my opinion, for like whatever you like. Like, I personally like archers a lot, and they have an archer. There's like a dwarf fighter type. There's I forget what actual race he is. He kind of looks like a dragon, like a lizard kind of thing, but he uses magic and he's awesome. There's the priestess girl, which is more like a healer support, and there's a fighter goblin slayer who's more of just like a warrior barbarian kind of, in a sense. So, like, whatever you like, I feel like they kind of have that in this story, and you can like focus on whichever one that you like. There's also all of the guild members that are there, and to touch on that as well, there's like this whole relationship between the Goblin Slayer and the guild master, not the guild master, the quest giver, that like she wants to be with him, and like she's kind of scared to talk to him because, oh, he only thinks about goblins, and why would he ever want to talk to me? Like, he's all about goblins. And I feel like the show would have been, or the series, whatever, would have been kind of like meh if it was only following the priestess and goblin slayer. But the fact that like it introduces all of these new characters, it makes the show like 100% times better, because you get to see all of these characters and all these interactions that really drive the series. I mean, obviously Goblin Slayer drives the series, but everybody else around him, like, boasting him up and pushing him forward and helping him get through all these trials, makes it so much more interesting. Like, it's cool to watch him fail, but it's better to watch him succeed with this group and like actually be successful. So they go to this new city where this maiden, who's supposedly very powerful, asks them with this task of like going into the sewers because people are getting murdered, and they need to figure out why people are getting murdered. Some people say it's goblins, and it goes into this really, really awesome story in these sewers about goblins and these ships and everything happening down in the sewers, and like there's a whole bunch of crazy, crazy stuff that gets unraveled, and like there's, you get to see some fan servicey stuff from the priestess and the maiden, which, it kind of keeps people around. I mean, people do enjoy fan service quite a bit. I mean, not there's the I wouldn't consider the very first episode like fan service, because it's terrible what's happening, and it's awful. I mean, but like I said, get past that and you'll enjoy the series. Back to the whole new city, like, it's very interesting. You get to see that Goblin Slayer is not just this dumb idiot who's going around trying to kill goblins. He's actually very intelligent, and he has a very unique thought process, and everything that he's learned has made him a much more valuable and stronger asset to anybody that needs him. So, like, looking past all of the basically just fighting goblins, there's a really cool underlying story that you get to really see, and it really kind of grasped me like by the throat, to say it kindly, and I loved it. I really want to get the light novel series and actually read it all as well, but just from the manga itself, I haven't finished. I have one volume left, unfortunately, which I will eventually buy and read because it's fantastic, guys. But to go back, if you like combat and like comedy and little tidbits of fan service, there's a lot of comedy though, and there's a lot of combat, which make for a pretty solid show. And it's a very short series. I think it's maybe 12 episodes with this show, but it's 7 volumes, and it's a really fun read, and it keeps you interested along the way. Like, you finish one of the volumes and you're like, oh my god, I need to read the next one right now. And I'm sure the show's the exact same way, because after the first episode I was like, oh my god, I gotta watch the next episode. But I wanted to read the manga first because I could get through it a lot quicker and then go back and watch the anime, because I feel like they could add a lot more or take some of it out to make it even better. Like, I know they took a little bit out of the first episode, which definitely made it better, because there's a lot of bad things that happen. But that's a good thing overall. Like, you don't want to show people everything from the manga because there's a lot of shock, and it's rough. But to go back. I love this show. I would definitely reread it, and I would watch it over and over again because I'm kind of obsessed with it. Like, not to be biased or anything, but definitely top tier show from last year, and I would 100% recommend it to any anime or manga reader slash watcher. But to keep it kind of short and simple, if you guys like the video, throw a like, throw a subscribe, and stay tuned for some more quick manga and overviews of whether or not to watch a solid series like Goblin Slayer.